I'm joined here by Fraser McLachlan, Chairman Tokio Marine GX. Fraser, thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you very much, Andrew.
And obviously, you're normally based in the UK, but you're joining me from Australia today. What brings you to this part of the world?
Well, we have been coming back and forward to Australia for well over a decade now. It's a region which we identified a number of years ago that had a great potential for renewables, and we wanted to try and get in at the beginning of that journey, really, as we've done in other countries and other parts of the world. So we've been coming back and forward to Australia, as I say, for over 10 years. And about 3 years ago, we took the initiative and actually set up an office here under the Tokyo Marine banner, employed underwriters. We've now got 3 underwriters down here specifically to take advantage of and to support the renewable energy transition in Australia.
That's great, and obviously, we're getting towards a year for the setup of Tokyo Marine GX. How has that been received in the market so far?
It's been received well. I mean, we came from a premise of, basically all we did was onshore wind energy, offshore wind, solar and battery storage, and Tokyo Marine Group broadened itself out from those core. So to just try and support net zero transition, and we wanted to do it in two ways. We wanted to try and support other industries, such as the hydrogen industry, such as the nuclear industry, and whether that be modular reactors or whether that be fusion or fission. And we also wanted to try and actually bring to the table some financial products that were able to support the industry. So whilst our background has really been more the conventional lines of business, such as property, casualty, and liability, and things like that, we found within the group that there's a lot of other parts actually touch the renewable energy space, such as the surety people, such as credit, such as tax indemnity, and things like that. So what we were really looking to do is to say, how can we put all of this under one banner, which is the GX banner, and bring with it a proposition where we can support the renewable energy industry and the conventional power generation industry, candidly, in its transition towards net zero. That was the real sort of guys and the real concept behind doing the whole GX thing, especially, in this part of the world where it's been largely a coal dominated market, and they've got some very, very ambitious goals towards, over 80% renewable energy in Australia by 2030.
So with numbers like that, with ambitious goals like that, that must offer you opportunities to expand, opportunities for more basically. Do you have any immediate or short long-term plans to expand in Australia, possibly even in the greater APAC region?
We do. We look at markets carefully. I mean, where we are now, right now, Andrew, is a little bit of crossroads. We just recently opened an office in Dubai. Obviously, we've had our office here in Australia for a few years now. If we were going to go anywhere else, I would say it would be Singapore. But we're watching that market quite carefully. As you know, the market's starting to soften, and we're monitoring that market. Equally, in the renewable energy space, there are more and more people want to get into the sector for obvious reasons. So we are, let's say, treading carefully as we go. Is now the right time to go into Singapore with the market softening and the amount of competition there is in the space? I would say probably not. Equally, we saw a very similar thing happen in the market probably 15, 17 years ago, where loads of people jumped into renewables and it became the sort of very trendy thing to do. They all got burnt and they all ran for the hills again. So, candidly, I think we're waiting for people to run for the hills before we go into Singapore.
Obviously, you mentioned Australia earlier. Obviously, in Australia, there was a recent stress test from the Australian Prudential Regulation Authority. Did you notice that? Did that come across your desk? And what does that mean? We're looking at climate risk in light of growing frequency of events, especially in Australia, given what we've seen recently.
Yeah, to be honest with you, it doesn't impact us directly that much. That legislation from the sort of effectively the Australian PRA was really governed around sort of domestic customers, retail customers that were using renewable energy. Most of our client base, or the majority of our client base, is much more of a commercial in nature, and they're very professional buyers of insurance. You know, that's what our client base is. So is it having a direct impact on us right now? I would say probably not. Is it having an impact maybe on some of our clients who are supplying those retail markets? Probably more so, but I haven't seen it filter down to us right now. I mean, a good example of a similar situation is in California, you know, where the Department of Insurance in California, after the wildfires, has started to put quite a lot of pressure on commercial insurers out there. I don't think we've seen that scope of commercial pressure yet here in Australia. Whether it comes or whether it doesn't, I don't really know. I would like to think not. But up until now, it's actually been okay.
And sticking with Australia, you mentioned the previous question didn't touch any much, but I suspect this might have. There's an event last year with quite a large battery storage facility under construction north of Sydney. There was
Yeah.
failures there. That was still quite big headlines there, and quite a high profile case. What does that mean for you? What can insurers learn from events like this with this new space with all the evolution that's taken place?
Yeah, I mean, battery storage is where the market is moving to. If it's not there, I think that basically lessons learned from that. It got a lot of headlines because it was a battery storage facility. But if you look at what the failures were transformers. So you could have had those failures on any power project. It could have been on a conventional power project. It could have been a renewable energy power project. What it looks like at the moment is that either one, two, or all three of those transformers were defective. We're not sure right now, but the point of fact is that, you know, it wasn't necessarily the batteries themselves. Now, I caveat that with the fact that, you know, we're heavily involved in the battery energy storage space. And I think you'd be naive to think that in that space that you're not going to see claims. Yeah. And, you know, batteries by their very nature go through various cycles. They go from cool to hot, from hot to cool, and they cycle a lot, and therefore they're much more prone to fires than other types of equipment. So, you know, we set ourselves up for the fact that we know that we're going to get X number of battery fires per year. It comes with the territory. It is what it is. And therefore, all you have to do is make sure that A, you've got enough premium in the bucket to be able to pay for the fire when it happens. And then B, that you've got adequate risk mitigation around the actual project with regards to separation, with regards to fire suppression, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that that project grabbed a lot of headlines because it was a very large battery storage facility. But if you drill down below what it actually is and look at how the loss happened, at the end of the day, it was transformers that failed. That they could have failed on a conventional power generation project just as easily as they did on this project.
You mentioned there that battery storage is where things are going. For you, for the market, for insurers, what's next? What's going to sustain things going forward for you?
I think where the market's going to go is, well, back up a second. I think that there's still got to be an energy mix. And I think that, people that say we're going to get to net zero by 2030 is probably over ambitious. Where the market is going to go, we are going to see new types of technology. So I think modular reactors from a nuclear perspective is where the market is definitely going to go. I think we're not very far away from nuclear fusion, probably a few years. Hydrogen, I think, will have its place in the market. I don't think it's going to take over the market, but it will certainly have its place. And we've already written 3 or 4 hybrid projects where people are using renewables to actually produce hydrogen at hydrogen facilities. So there's a lot of scope to diversify into other forms of power generation outside of the more conventional wind and solar and things like that. So if I was going to put my money somewhere, I would say modular reactors and fusions where we're going to be in the future, and more of a mix of portfolio and industry types.
Fraser, looking forward seems like a good place to end. I thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your time in Australia, and I guess a safe trip back to the UK.
Thank you ever so much, Andrew. Nice speaking with you.